I've been experiencing the project from hell. It's our real first home improvement project.
Oh, yeah.
Have I told you about our sinks and swapping them out and stuff?
Yeah, briefly, because you're about the marble or faux marble countertopping.
Yeah. Anyways, we had 3 sinks in our house replacing. All of the like guest bathroom ones and stuff like that, right? In our master bath. And the first one we did, you know, I was in the midst of it and I was telling Billie Jean while doing it, I was like, you know, this is how this is going to work. This first one, it's going to be a little frustrating at times, but for the most part, we're just learning. And it's okay if we have to redo things over because we're just learning. And then the second one is going to go way faster because of everything we learned from the first one.
Which is typically true.
And I said, and then the third one is going to take the longest, likely days, if not weeks. And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, it's just the way these things work.
Yeah.
It's just the way they work. And with the third one, we found when we removed the old sink that it had yellowed in its perfect rectangular shape.
Because did the first two go the way you thought?
Oh, yeah. First one, like, was the one where we had to redo a couple things and go back and forth and undo. Second one went way faster. Third one's still not done. It's over a month later. And the issue is that it was, you know, the silestone, which is like a quartz composite. It stained yellow underneath the sink for some reason, but the sink was sealed. And so I don't know if it just yellowed from lack of air, but nothing we did was taking that stain out of it. We tried every single thing that people encourage you to try. Nothing was removing even like a hue of the stain. The stain was so light that it was just enough to notice with the light on that there was a color differentiation. And I tried sanding, stuff like that, just to see if I could get any color to come out of it. Nothing. Tried. And people were like, oh, you got to try XYZ. And I'm like, shut up. I did. I tried everything. If you were saying that right now, this is Mick telling you, shut your mouth. I tried it. The toothpaste, the vinegar and baking soda, the bleach, the what is it, CLR. I mean, I tried everything, man, under the sun, and none of it works. We even reached out to Silestone, the manufacturer, and was like, hey, what do we do with this? They never responded. So yeah, I poop on them.
Yeah.
So anyways, what we settled on doing is getting a quart of marble. A cut of marble. And it's just like a marble slab that you would put in a restaurant or something for like food to sit on. You know, like you have your pastries of the day sitting on it for sale.
Right.
And it's food grade marble, which means like it's not supposed to stain if you leave like gooey jellies and jams on it or whatever. It's been kind of sealed. So I just drilled a hole through it. But getting the drill parts to drill through marble is an insane task in of itself, because I got the cut for it to cut a circle in. But then it didn't come with the chuck. And of course they don't sell the diamond tipped chuck at Home Depot when you buy the diamond tipped hole drill. So then it's like, all right, then I guess we're doing this without a chuck tipped with diamond to center it. And so we set up a rudimentary jig where I grabbed a 2-inch and 1/8 hole saw and drilled that through a piece of wood. Then I put the wood over the marble.
You clamp it
and clamped it down. And I had already drawn on the marble with a Sharpie through the faucet. I mean, not the faucet, the sink drain hole of where it would go, right? So I knew where I had it to drill. And it was perfectly circled. And then I taped over that and circled it again. So that way the tape's there to kind of keep the marble from chipping or like cracking, right? And then I started drilling through, man, and I drilled through that hole, and my buddy, I'll just call him Jonesy, he was standing by me with a hose, just running the water in the hole the whole time. So that way the drill bit didn't melt. And we drilled through, and it was pretty, it wasn't perfect. It came out the other side and it chipped a little bit.
On the underside?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's okay because that will just be covered by the sink, because the sink will go on top of this.
Right.
And here's another reason. People's like, why didn't you just buy this sink big enough? Well, because the sink that was here was offset. It was an offset hole.
Mm-hmm.
So the hole is offset from the stain.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sink was an offset shape. It was weird. And you can't just buy, like, we looked everywhere. Then, like, people just don't make offset sinks. I was like, where did this even come from? So, anywho, all that said, we put the marble down, and we sealed it with, the marble quartz stone sealer that you do. And then we also did the, what's it called? Silicone underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
Just to help it stick and stay in place with the weight and not scratch the silestone. And now we go to put the faucet and sink in.
Yeah.
And the water lines that came with the faucet aren't long enough to reach the old ones. So now we had to buy water line, like extendos, male, female extendos for tomorrow. So it's just like one more day every single time, man. And I'm like, I'm losing my marbles, dude.
Now you're going to have one more spot for it to potentially leak and the extender.
Yeah.
Man.
Which I've been doing good about that. I've been putting paper towels down in the old sink, other sinks, after replacing their water lines and stuff, and just leaving them there for a few weeks to make sure that we're all good. And I check on them to make sure that they don't got water staining on them. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where it just makes me like so irate, and like I'm losing religion to this sink. There's many a times where I'm under there swearing up a storm.
It's home ownership.
Yeah,
it's becoming an old man right there.
Yeah, dude. Also, here you go. TMI, massive hemorrhoid. I have to go to the doctor for this.
Oh no,
dude. I want you to look at my thumb. Yeah. Imagine that just hanging out your asshole.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah, dude. It's pretty brutal.
That is.
I've been taking some like third-party medicine for it.
like from
homeopathic stuff that's supposed to open your veins.
If it came from like a different country.
Well, I also had to tell a doc, he just was like, hey, get this, hydrocortisone, put it on your finger, shove it up there, bud. It should help relieve it until you can get in to see a real doctor. A real doctor, goodness. Like a 20-day appointment I got to wait for.
Goodness.
They called me. They're like, do you really want to meet with this doctor, or could we schedule you earlier with a different doctor? I'm like, well, I prefer a male doctor.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, okay, all right, then we'll leave you with them.
Yep.
I'm like, I don't really want a chick doctor going back there. Nothing against female doctors, but it's just me as a man has some pride that the only woman that sees my butthole is my wife.
Yep.
And even then, I don't like her to see it.
Yeah.
Even then, I try to hide her from that.
Oh my gosh.
A shelter. It was funny. We were talking with a friend recently, and we were just joking about how like girls, the moment you get married, usually don't care at all, and they'll just change in front of you or whatever, which is great. I don't want my wife to be, what's the word? Not aware, but what's the word? Self-conscious.
Self-conscious.
I don't want her to ever feel self-conscious in front of me. Me as a man, though, I don't feel safe.
Yeah.
Bending over with my butt out.
Yeah.
It goes against all God's nature. Okay.
Yeah.
And I also don't think that I have as much of a beautiful feminine figure. Okay. There's probably some fuzz and hair around, and probably a little bit of like discoloration from like the boxer lint on my gooch. Okay. So I don't think I need to expose that to the world.
The ultimate vulnerability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the thing too, though. I've never like looked at myself in the mirror. I've never looked at myself in the mirror and been grossed out.
Yeah.
But I can objectively be like, hey, this is way grosser than what a woman looks like. Okay. This is pretty like gorilla-ish, ape-ish. Like I should have some discretion and not expose her to that.
Oh my gosh.
Which, Billie Jean, God bless her, she's so sweet. She's like, you don't have to go change in the bathroom. I'm like, oh, I know, but you don't know what this looks like.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So, anyway,
that's unfortunate. Hope we get that resolved.
Smoke break.
Smoke break.
Hey, Ken, it's Mick, and I've got something important to talk about. We all hope we never find ourselves in a self-defense situation, but life's unpredictable. Enter the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer, an actual credible law firm you can put on retainer for your self-defense needs. For just $35 a month, you get national coverage in all 50 states for criminal and civil legal representation in self-defense situations, complete with a 24/7, 365 toll-free emergency line. That's real legal support when you need it most. What's in the package? Bail bonds, scene cleanup, firearm replacement, even mental health counseling. Plus, 0 fees for a laundry list of defense-related costs like expert witnesses. So support the show and get yourself some peace of mind. Click the link in our show notes or visit our sponsors page to sign up for the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer.
Hey folks, Pat here. If you're like Mick and I, you're a fan of classic tales like Lonesome Dove, Blood Meridian, The Three-Body Problem, and Steinbeck's East of Eden. With Audible, you can dive into these epic stories anytime, anywhere. Sign up for a free month, and your first audiobook is on the house. To start your free trial and support our show, click the link in the show notes or swing by the sponsors page on our website.
Want an awesome website for your podcast? Check out Podpage. We use it for the Mick and Pat show, and it's a game changer. Set it up in minutes, no coding needed. Support the show by using our link to get started. Your podcast deserves a home as great as ours. Podpage, the one-stop solution. Yeah, I'm not too worried about it now. I've been doing the hydrocortisone cream, and I've been taking this, it's called something horse, it's called horse chestnut. It smells earthy. Yeah. It's in a pill, you know, but it's like definitely like homemade made capsules, right? It's at like Natural Grocers or Sprouts. There's that one, and then the other one called like Goku something.
Are you sure it's supposed to be taken orally? Just put the wrong. All right, just make sure you're not
take by mouth.
All right, just make sure you're not putting pills in the wrong spots. You know.
Well, it's the same thing.
Hey, you never know.
I know, doctor. The hydrocortisone cream did come with like a attachment to screw onto it that like was like a long nib, like a nib probably as long as like the tip of your pinky, if not longer, and it was ported like a compensator to like screw on the top of the cream and then shove up there and squeeze, and it just squeeze it out in all direction.
Oh no.
I didn't do that. I was like, I need to know if this thing's getting smaller. I need first-hand contact. So I've been using a lot of dude wipes lately.
Yeah.
Dude wiping and trying this hydrocortisone. Anyways, turned 30. I don't feel any older other than that. That's the only thing that makes me really feel older.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing that is absolutely different than my 20s is that now I'm getting hemorrhoids.
That is different. It's a life interrupter for sure.
I will say it brings me a lot of pleasure how much laughter it's brought my friends recently.
Yeah. Well,
I've talked about it with many a man, and many a man has found it hilarious. And I've just nodded. Like, you just wait. You just wait for years.
And I'll say, like, I mean, I only until recently did even know what that really was.
Yeah.
Like, I've always heard it.
Well, a lot of people don't know. A lot of people, all right, to clarify out there, a hemorrhoid is not an open wound on your butthole. A lot of people think it's an open wound. It's not an open wound. It's literally just a kink in the hose that's not letting blood flow back out easily. And so it just looks like honestly just looks like you got a extra little dingleberry just attached there. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much like the same. I will say this. It's the same color as your butt cheeks. It's not like purpley or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because I looked up, I was like, what is this? When it first happened. It's like, what is this thing? And the images were not what I was seeing in the mirror. The images were a lot more horrendous and horrific. And I think they're usually images of like people who have left them untreated.
Well, that's the problem with all like web pictures, like med pictures. Like it's always like the worst cases.
Yeah.
You're like, can I see the medium?
You're like,
mild cases?
Why are my elbows itchy? It's like, well, you have eczema and psoriasis. And you're like, well, what is that? And they just show like the person who has a skin infection.
110% psoriasis
leprosy
on their body.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, some people kill themselves. It's so bad. And you're like, oh my God, like, what should I do?
Is there any intermediate thing I can do before, just going to the big,
big empty,
the big party in the sky?
Yeah. Anyways,
no. Speaking of the gorilla-ish appearance, I don't know if you know, but while we were slapping chest seals on you with your shirt up.
Oh yeah.
On the stage of the old timey church we were in, I took a picture of you.
Oh,
and
really?
It was just because it was funny, just because you had
my happy trail out.
Yeah, just your full shirt, just to be standing up like
I'm pretty hairless.
To be in like a very traditional looking church.
Oh yeah,
with your lifting your shirt.
It was for education.
It was for educational purposes.
Which kind of brings us to what we're
good thing we
talking about.
Yeah, good thing we didn't do any. Part of our first aid training did not involve butt cream. Because that's not a.
I don't think I had the hemorrhoid then yet.
That's distracting, not.
I might have had the hemorrhoid.
Life threatening. As we learned.
Yes.
To not address the distracting things, but the life threatening things, and so, yeah, no butt cream, but yeah, so we got to, and we talked about this. Maybe at this point you hear this a podcast or two ago, or that we were going to do a first aid training with our
it's more than just first aid.
Yep. It was a emergency response type of training at our church with our security team. And
it was essentially the stop the bleed training that they give first responders and military. Not training us to be EMTs or EMS, but training us to keep people alive and give them the best chance possible until you get them to EMS.
And it was a good time. It was about, there's about 11 of us that, came and trained together. And tonight we're going to kind of break down some of the stuff we saw there, what we experienced, what we learned, and then also maybe go over some of the like gear pieces that we are incorporating in either like everyday carry stuff over to more of like a, in our IFAC or med bag stuff. And we, a few episodes ago, we did kind of a pretty exhaustive breakdown of first aid equipment. And this will be, more of a flyover of the actual, like applications or the yeses and nos, but, kind of what we've landed on of what we're now, either carrying with us or having in our truck and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And if you got any questions about the gear, medical gear, because you haven't seen that episode yet, you can always head back to the episode and see the breakdown with timestamps as well as links in the description to all the medical gear that we pretty much recommend, or our guests, Mac and Rice-A-Roni, recommend. So, which was also pretty cool because when we did this first aid training, this Stop the Bleed, it was pretty cool to just see that the instructor Ty pretty much emphasized, the same stuff that Rice-A-Roni was going over of like, what he said was to have in your kit, not in your kit, what to have on you for others to use on you versus having on yourself to use on others if need be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So and I was thinking, and with that training, we also ran through some like live scenarios and stuff. And so I think towards the end, we'll probably like break down kind of what we saw and where we did good or where we fell short and that sort of thing. And, but I was thinking, we talked about earlier, starting off with just a EDC pocket dump, and people out there, some pocket dumps are pretty outrageous. You got all sorts of things in there, but so we were going to give you the honest pocket dump, which may be underwhelming. And then we might get into a few pieces of like stuff we sometimes carry at other times, or depending on where we're at, or a little piece of gear we think are cool, and then we'll break down kind of like those scenarios. Yeah.
So we're doing EDC now.
I think we could start with kind of our simple, like what do you really have in your pockets, and then we can look at some of the other stuff. Do
you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. All right. So, first and foremost, that we've got our addictions, and
the I'm trying to quit Zen.
The 3 milligram.
I'm a quitter.
Lying to myself because you get 3s, but you buy them at a full log at a time. When you're buying logs,
same
you're
price. Same price.
Exactly. But my weak stomach can't handle the 6s. I don't know why. So, like the other night, I got a call from my sister who was giving birth very quickly at her home
in her garage.
It was pretty wild, and that's a whole nother story for a different time. But I'll say, when I hopped in my truck at 1 a.m., I said to myself, this is why we have these. Just 24/7, it's ready. So I like, yeah, because I got in the truck and I didn't have them in my pocket, but I did have in my center console. I always keep a couple extra, and so I grabbed that, threw it in, and put the hazards on, and trucked on down. Or bad day at work, stub your toe, smash your finger with a hammer, throw one of those in there, or
one in.
There's basically, we could go through the long list of all the reasons and times to put one in, which kind of comes to all the time, which, maybe we should, maybe I need to regulate that a little more.
You got to have a schedule, man. That's why I only toss them in at nighttime before bed.
For sure.
I do that, or if I'm having like a mid-afternoon dump and I really need to make sure, like, I'm like in a rush. Like, let's say I'm at like Target. No one wants to hang out in the Target bathroom. So I'll throw a Zinner or two in just to make sure just to expedite the poo.
For sure. Sometimes you got to. And so moving along though, obviously we got wallets. Mine's pretty thick. I've actually made leaps and bounds in getting less thick.
This is a small business owner wallet for sure.
And so
got everybody's business card.
This used to be a lot fatter. I got it down, but this wallet, I've had this wallet for over 10 years now. And it's still kicking. It's really strong, really durable. But me and my buddy in college, we got some leather and sewed them ourselves.
Oh, nice.
And it's I like this thing. It's over time smooth, nice leather. But anyway, so we'll see how long that thing lasts. But in the past, I was going through wallets probably every 2 years, like kind of blowing them out, But this one, I like it. And I don't like the new the new clips or like the Ridge stuff. Or
I was going to ask, would you ever rock just like a classy money clip?
Maybe at some point, but there's too many different things I like to have on me between like personal credit cards, business credit cards. I do like to carry cash. I think it's like crazy to not carry some cash, which really I rarely need it, but I like to have. And then hunting licenses, just keeping them in there all the time.
Yeah.
Just fishing license, so you're not getting caught with your pants down. And then, so then it just, you end up a couple other things, a Crazy Carl's gift card that's been in there for like 5 years. It has $7 on it. I haven't used that sort of stuff. There are some of that stuff too. But, moving along, we've got just some AirPods. I've got I roll with the Evil Empire and the Apple World.
Yay.
But they are, I love them with the, obviously people like their headphones. Headphones have come such a long way, and like battery life and all that now, and how fast they charge, how well they work with their, it switches between my phone, computer, whatever. But then also running in, I'm always on a ladder in a crawl space in an attic. And so if I have these on, I can take calls. And they do have some noise cancellation. They have some noise cancellation that does give you some ear pro on there. So when I am running some power tools and stuff, it does help some with that. So if I'm running some big stuff for a long time, I will still grab my ear pro to protect myself. But this just does give you that extra layer of,
I was going to say,
it's not for guns. It's not for running like an angle grinder for 10 minutes. But if you're just, making running here and there, saw cut, drills, whatever, like it does cut out some of that stuff. You do have to be careful on the noise cancellation. Like you get run over by a car, you can't hear anything, coming through on you.
Well, I met someone who was using them, and they're like, yeah, I just use the noise cancellation in my AirPod Pro at the range. I'm like, you do know the noise cancellation is actually not canceling noise. It's just plain noise to try to cancel out the other noise.
So the decibel piece is...
You're still receiving the full decibels.
Right. And I think the way that these work, I've got to look at these. I think the way these work is they actually, when they're in the non-transparency mode, or when they're transparency mode, they actually amplify noise. And then when you do go noise cancellation, I don't know if it adds noise on these or if it just doesn't let noise through. So
gotcha.
So it feels, but anyways, not a full purpose ear pro, but I like them for that, being able to talk on the phone, kind of get addicted to those. And then obviously, that goes with the phone, just, simple OtterBox. Love that. And in this town, I'm a slave to it, but it's time for a new phone. We got some cracks in there, but hey,
get a Droid. Get an Android.
I don't know if I can convert, man. It's so hard.
It's not hard. It's so easy. It's like hard for one day.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And then I always have some form of writing utensil, usually a Sharpie for what I'm doing. You know,
That's good.
You can sign a check with a Sharpie. That's fine.
I used to always have pens and pencils.
Mm-hmm. And I stopped carrying a clicky pen because so many times I'd look down and I'd bled it through my pants. I'm like, I'm done with that.
Yep.
You know, and so obviously pen for all sorts of reasons. And then I like to carry a little pen light flashlight. And it's just utility, you know. I'm always looking in dark places, and then it does come in handy, you know, for all sorts of things. I feel like once you start carrying a flashlight, you're screwed, because then when you don't have it, you're so bummed out. And yes, your phone has one, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
And so even like I was at the hospital this last week, and my daughter had a procedure in her mouth, and all the nurses and ENTs didn't have pen lights. They were using their iPhone lights.
Oh, wow.
Which cast way too like wide.
That's crazy.
And so they really weren't able to see. Well, it's like somebody with an MD is like, hold on one second, gets out their phone, turns on their light. And I'm like, I already have this out of my pocket. Yeah. I'm looking in her mouth and actually able to examine what I'm looking at.
That's crazy, because I remember all doctors used to have the little pen light in their pocket.
The pen light was the doctor, like the little, and back, like it was an actual bulb, little bulb back in the day. I know, pen lights. So, and when the old pen light would work by if you click the top, like the clip, it would contact, and then it would go through. So, love to have a light. And then I've always got some sort of blade, because I'm a construction guy. Usually lots of times blade is this, just a razor knife. And some days if I'm not working, I'll show you, I carry a different knife, but usually that's what I got going on. It works for, almost all utility things I want and need, for opening stuff and getting what I need done. So that's really that's the simple pocket dump. That's what I've got on me most of the time. And
so this is the EDC regardless, no matter what. This is always pretty much what's on you.
That's in the pocket. That's what's going on, you know. And so and I'll grab my couple of things here. When I if I'm out and about, or if I'm not at work, then I love this Cricut knife. It's pretty big, you can see, and so
chunk
carrying double knife is a no-go. But it is so big. But what I like about it with this one in particular is you don't always have to get out this honker for what you're doing, because with the seatbelt cutter in here, you can do so many. You can open cardboard boxes, cut string, whatever. Actually, sometimes even more precisely, and not have to especially in public or whatever, like you're whipping out a knife, or whatever. I can get this out and just use it for little things. This is maybe the EMS version or something on it, but it has a seatbelt cutter and then a glass breaker on it. But this knife, it's a little big, but I do like having a larger knife if I'm carrying something around. And then so that would become sometimes swapped out for the razor blade. But I've got two other things. I'm gonna pull two other things that I do carry. Now I'm going to kind of move into some other, if I'm in other situations, what I'm carrying around. And so, if I am, in a spot where I feel like it's a little more, there's people might need to be protected, taken care of, whatever. And I don't want to carry the gun. I have been rocking this blade you got me, which I do like. This K-bar is sweet. It's the little punchy knife here, and it's pretty concealable. And it's been nice for there I do go places where I don't carry my pistol, and so this just does obviously not end all be all, but it just gives you that extra little something in there. And it's pretty comfy, and you can hide it even almost better than some of these other it's the same size as my pocket knife, but when it's in the waistband. So I think that's been a pretty slick addition to what we're doing. And so have you been carrying yours around?
Yeah, pretty much every day.
Yeah,
I've been messing around with it, and I will say it is a pain in the ass to move that clip.
Yep.
The Allen wrench and the screws are god awful. Like it's minimum 30 minutes to swap it around and decide orientation.
And the only thing, I don't know how long this clip was going to last. Have you felt that or noticed that yet?
I definitely have been pretty rough with it, but it hasn't blown out on me yet.
Yeah, it's not all the way out yet, but it's starting to get a little, so we'll see. But like I said, it's not all day, every day for me. So, but like that, and then, we can, and then I think I'm going to stop there, let you do yours, and then we can move into.
Oh, wait. You never carry a gun?
Well, I was going to say let's all get mine out once you get to the end of yours, get yours out the end. We can touch tips and compare a little, what we got going on.
All right. Well, I mean, mine's going to be a lot easier. Do you ever hey, we just did medical training. Are you carrying medical ever?
Oh, that's a good point. We do have yep. So I'm also throwing a tourniquet in my back pocket lots of times. And then, spare mag in the front pocket is where we've got stuff going on. So there's lots of days where I'm rocking kind of this full setup, but
sure.
That this is more that
you're only picking one knife though. You're not carrying three.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, that'd be kind of retarded if you were carrying three knives.
If I carry this, I do have one of these still.
Oh yeah.
Because this isn't coming out for anything, right?
That's coming out to like kill a dog, kill a person.
It's coming out for one thing only. This stuff's coming out for cleaning my fingernails and all that sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And then as far as pockets go, one thing I have been throwing in my pocket, where'd it go? Is at the
gauze.
The gauze. This North American Rescue cheap gauze. It's like $1.50 or $3. Is I pair that with that tourniquet, and then I have a pretty, I've got some real good head start on stop the bleed stuff, and so these, this isn't always with me, but if I'm at a place where I feel like people might need to be taken care of, or there's a lot of spots that have lots and lots of people going on, or spots that might be a higher target threat risk, then we go with that. So Cool. So some days the pockets are loaded down. So
how
about you, Sir Mick?
All right,
what do you got going on?
Get this stuff off the table, bro.
All right.
Get this stuff off the table. I want people mixing my EDC with your EDC. This is one of the things though, like a lot of people take a ton of pride in. Yep. I've never cared. I've never cared. Like when someone's like, "Bro, you're not carrying this?" I'm like, "No." And they're like, "You're gonna die in the streets."
And like,
I'm just like, dude, I highly disagree, but okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just because there's never in my life have I ever seen someone have to use any of this gear other than the phone or the wallet. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, people are reeling and screeching. They're like, "Well, Mick, but what are you saying? We shouldn't carry guns or knives?" No, of course not. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying the likelihood. You know what I mean? But I do live in a philosophy of it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Which is... Oh, go ahead.
Watch. One more thing is the Garmin Instinct Solar. I love this thing.
I don't care that. I don't consider that EDC though. But it's on your wrist.
Yeah, right. But it's on me every day. Watches are part of EDCs.
I don't. If it's something that
I
doesn't
get
have
a
to
pocket watch.
Exactly. I'm saying like if it doesn't fit in pockets or like waistband. Like if that's not where it goes, then it's just like it's clothing.
All right.
It's accessory.
All right. Weigh in, folks. Weigh in.
No, that's all right. But like people would be like, "Oh, yeah, my EDC is my like $20,000, whatever watch." And I'm like, "No, it's not. Shut up." I think watches are. I love my watch. I think it's a necessary part of like and there's a lot of function and utility out of watches. I just pretty much treat it the same way as I treat a hat. Right. Like I'm always EDC in a hat.
That's true. That's true.
But I don't care. I don't
That's true.
Consider it.
I will say, like, as far as one thing this one has is yours watch, I have it too, and lots to do, but is I can, if I hold a button, it's sending my location to 3 folks.
Oh, no, mine doesn't.
It's sending my GPS and my heart rate to people out there. So, so if I'm it's nice in the woods, whatever, but also like in the emergency situation, I can hold this button and it calls out.
So that's got SAT capabilities?
Yes, it can. It works through your phone.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
so that's.
Yeah, I think mine could do it through the phone too, but I don't have a separate like SAT SIM card in.
Right.
You know,
it can. It does. It can access satellites for GPS though as well. So it's
like even if your phone was offline though.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I mean, that's kind of cool. I don't know, man, because I think like, oh yeah, that'd be nice to have an emergency. But what if I'm running through the hills of San Francisco, the Redwood Pines, and they're trying to geolocate me so they can drop a drone on me?
That's true. You might
just
be getting
easier.
some signals of going on. Or like we were actually at when we did a training years ago, when we did a retreat training, we were doing some shooting, and my watch went off.
Oh, I remember this.
Remember, my watch went off while we were doing it because I accidentally held the button too long, and like my wife knew I was in the woods, knew I was shooting guns, and it sent an emergency response. So then I had to go get to where I had cell service to call it off.
Yeah, we were in the middle actually of our like a sweat lodge man-on-man orgy, and I remember that was a real mood killer when you were like, guys, I gotta go call my wife and let her know someone activated. We did fit like 10, right now
10 guys in a 2-man sauna, and it was sweaty.
It was sweaty.
Oh yeah.
All right. Anyways, all right. Mick's EDC. First and foremost, nice good old black powder Lamette. 10 rounds of 38 or if it's real black powder, 44 cal with a 20 gauge underbarrel. And I keep that just so I can kill the horses.
Yeah,
that the men ride and then finish them after they scratch the ground. No, I'm just kidding. But I always do love to show off this little replica. This is a replica. It's a great replica. All right. Well, I guess first and foremost, let me double check to make sure there's nothing on my keys that are going to give me away. Yeah, I don't think so.
Your library card number.
Yeah,
coming for
I guess my gym membership that I don't use. All right, so first one, right? When I'm leaving the house, is the keys here, and they I got a lot of keys.
I think it's loaded up.
Yeah, so this is the key to my wife's Subaru, our Subaru, but the latch broke, and so she made I made this pocket blueprint for it. I was like, yeah, use the paracord and then sew it in, and cut out little holes for all the buttons. So it's like Leatherface. It's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre of keys.
It does look like that now.
And then I got a little wiper for my glasses, like Cabela's one. And then I got my New Belgium bottle opener. And that's pretty much it on the keys. Everything else there is just for the house or previous places I've lived. I keep those keys because if they don't change the locks and I ever need to break in, then I can. And someone's like, what? And I'm like, actually serious. Like, up next is probably the longest running multi-tool I've ever had. It's a Gerber Gerber Suspension Next. It was the one that was like, the first one that had Bear Grylls' like face on the package. Like, this is my Gerber.
Yeah.
But I really like it a lot. The clip is totally blown out. It falls out of my pocket constantly, but it's the rule of cheap. It's like sunglasses and watches and anything else that's cheap, is that the cheap stuff falls off of you and it won't ever go away.
Gets found.
It just like gets found, or someone returns it.
Yeah, and
the moment I spend $60 on a Leatherman, or actually probably $80 these days or more, it's gone.
Oh yeah, and that's why I'm not carrying a Benchmade around.
Yeah, same.
Because that thing's just gonna disapparate.
But anyways, and this has got a knife on it and scissors that aren't really good anymore because the spring's worn out. But I use the file and the screwdriver. A ton. I use probably the screwdriver, and I don't know what this is. This it's just like a flat, and it's not a can opener, but it's just a flat like shim that's angled, but it's not sharp enough to really cut. It's not as sharp as a knife.
Oh, yeah.
But the tip's worn down because of how much I've used that tip to just pop lids without having to chip the tip off my knife.
Mm-hmm. And it's like sharp enough to like whittle kind of.
Yeah,
or like
you could
scrape
probably
something or like,
I genuinely think the concept behind it is that you could use it to, hold it up to the cam a little. But I think the concept is like you could put it on wood and then just like rock hammer that. And it's like such a wide wedge that it would give you like,
or something?
Yeah, like you could kindle pretty easy without having to use your knife.
All right.
I don't really know.
Yeah.
But I use it a lot. I use that one more than anything else. So there we go. That's one. Second knife is my Cricut, and I can't remember what this one's called. It's called the Cricut something. I got to be real careful actually deploying it so I don't cut myself. But it deploys off of this corner up here, and that corner catches on your like the corner seam of your jeans, and it pushes the blade out like that, right? And it essentially friction locks in a like base. It's like similar to like a locomotion train wheel. But this is my like sit in the pocket, scoop out and deploy in one motion, and punch people or dogs. Now that I walk a dog like 3 to 5 miles a day, and I see how bad all the other dogs are, my number one thing is like I'm probably gonna have to kill another dog. I'm more likely to have to kill another dog than another person, because a lot of people just are awful at training their dogs, which is just a sad thing nowadays. And I have no desire to kill a dog, but if it becomes between your dog running up and biting mine or me, like, dude, I'm not gonna wrestle your dog for a minute while it's throat locked on mine. I'm just gonna cut your dog.
It's a as someone who's been attacked multiple times by dogs, I think it's a reality that you got to watch out for, especially like little kids. Yeah, little kids and bad dogs is bad. But yep, you got to keep an eye out for them.
But anyways, there's my second knife.
All right, I like it. It's like a.
And then
do you also like it because it looks like a velociraptor's
talon, claw?
Mm-hmm.
Here's my third knife. It's the same thing that Pat pulled out just a minute ago, but it's a little more worn on the scuffed because I keep it on my backside, and I keep it like this so that way the clip is on my belt and this is flush against my back. But it's there so I can reach back with my left hand and grab it. And grab it like I'm reaching for my wallet. So that's kind of my, like, I guess if I got someone who's got the drop on me pretty good, and I'm like, dude, I don't know if I could clear my appendix holster quick enough, I could grab that, toss wallet, and in the motion of handing the wallet over, start going to town and start punching.
Would you ever just give the wallet and get out of there?
Yeah, for sure, depending on the situation, right? Like,
you want options.
Here's my biggest thing is like, if they're willing to threaten my life for my stuff, that's enough for me to believe that they actually
mean it,
would be willing to take my life after they got my stuff. But let's say it's Billie Jean and I, and someone who just looks like they want a jet. And if it's in a position where I'm like, ooh, I can't really clear the Billie Jean from being behind me or my backstop, then I'll probably do what I can until I have a pretty good opportunity. If the good opportunity never arises, then, you just cross your fingers and pray to God that you're fast enough in the moment if it looks like they're going for it. But all that is like one of those things where you just pretty much got to trust the moment. It's pretty bad to draw on a drawn gun. Your only hope is really distracting. And the one thing I've seen work really good in a lot of actual use cases, especially in like Brazil and all that, is homies just grabbing their wallet and fumbling it, tossing it on the ground. And then they either just go to town with a knife or a gun on like the attacker. And it's just it's pretty good. Most attackers don't think to tell you to pick it up. They go to pick it up. You know what I mean?
Because they want it so bad.
Yeah.
Because their next hit is their next.
I need that for my heroin.
Exactly.
My H. Anyways, but if you guys will notice, I was just making fun of Pat. I was like, what gay retard carries 3 knives? I said that. I will never insult someone if it's not something I'll insult myself about. So there we go. Now, right side pocket. So I'll say this, keys hang off left side belt loop, like just actually on the like very left side of me, not on my back, not on my front. This is back left pocket. This is on right pocket, front, like right side pant pocket. This is behind my back left back pocket. So this is like just above that. This is other stuff in the right side pocket. Some Zemos. I love me my Zemos.
All right. I don't know if I've heard of those yet.
8 milligrams.
Oh, wow. They're heavy.
20 pouches, 8 milligrams for like $4.99.
Wow.
Yeah, suck on that, Zen. Zen's also like $8 now.
Dude, yeah, today it was
insane.
Today it was $9.50.
No.
I know.
No, dude. You used to be able to buy 3 cans for that.
I know.
I love these right here. I have a bag of 10, and this is just the same pair I've been using for a long time. I might actually only have 9 now because I think I put them on a buddy because he's like, I can break out of those. I'm like, dude, you cannot break out of these. But these are basically like nylon shoelace lock cuffs, and this plastic blue piece here, if you pull it through, there's no way to undo it. There's no way at all to undo it. So once you tighten it down with whatever's in these loops, you have to cut it.
All right.
Which is also a nice thing to have multiple knives to cut, right? Because if you're like, okay, well, I've assessed the situation. This person is not a threat, so I'm going to cut them loose so I can, deal with whatever else, right? Which we'll go through a couple scenarios, I guess, of how that actually almost played out at the church security thing. But Zemos, love them. Nice, beautiful nicotine logs. My phone is recording. So it's up there. I actually don't walk around with headphones most of the time.
Yeah.
I only have headphones if I'm like out walking the dog. But if I'm like leaving the home, I don't usually bring them.
Yeah.
And then nice big old fat Carhartt leather wallet.
You got a fat one going on.
Yeah, but it's mostly fat because of like
all that cash.
No. Left side is like all of the business cards I've received. Right side is all my like membership cards and stuff. And then it's got a like second compartment mini wallet.
Oh yeah.
So when I don't have pockets for the big one, I just bring this one with like a credit card and my ID.
Yeah, I like that. And that's, like because people sometimes give me flack for having all that stuff in my wallet, but I'm like, I'm not the type of person who's gonna, like, if I'm going out of the house, like, have the plan for the day that I might like I'm going to go to like the library and the gym and the grocery store. So I need to like bring that gift card I got and this membership. It's like, no, I just have that in my pocket. Cause when I get somewhere and I don't have that thing, I like want to freak out.
Yeah.
So I got to stay stacked. And lots of guys give me flack for it, but I think that part of your responsibility as a man is just being ready for what's coming up. And lots of stuff in your wallet can be very helpful.
Like getting that discount from King Soopers at the gas.
Exactly.
All right. This thing, though, this is actually the thing I carry the most. I carry this more than anything else because I have a rule. My rule is if I'm putting pants on, gun on.
All right.
And a lot of people are like, yeah, but like, you can't do that all the time because of sweats or whatever. I'm like, no. I can do it all the time because I am rocking an Enigma.
Oh, yeah.
For people who don't know, the Enigma is a separate inner belt that you can place on. So you're wearing this like magnetic latch here, and that allows you to essentially wear this when you're wearing sweats or shorts or swim trunks, whatever. And you can tighten this yourself on your inner lining right over your boxers and like an undershirt if you want. And that allows you that you don't have to wear a belt on the outside or like some kind of reinforced sweats or whatever. And so I really like it a lot. And this holster I have is the holster specifically for just the TLR1 light. So you can see here I got my shadow systems, and this TLR light, though, I can put it on my FNX 45, which is a much bigger gun, and that can go and fit in this holster just as well with the trigger covered tight. On the back of the holster, I have a Velcro pad and a nice soft protect my nuts pillow. Because if you think about it, this pillow is like going next to my nuts or my balls, and it angles the gun out away from them. And it's also just nice and comfy to have that on. And then so also people know our firearms, we have our dry fire mags in them, which I imagine is what Pat wants to kind of show off together. But this dry fire mag means there can't be an actual round in the chamber because the magazine's not a real magazine, and it just helps reset the trigger.
Which I think, though, if you do have, you can have your gun go off if you put a round in there and then put the dry fire mag in and pull the trigger.
I think it depends on the gun.
Right, but just for the,
Oh, sure,
just for, it's like...
I don't think you can put a 9mm round with the mag for the Glock style.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I think the spring will get in the way
of it going,
yeah.
Which is good. But either way, it's still, you clear it and you go dry fire. But what I like, so like also with that pillow, it's pushing it back into you. So like, this seems like your printing is so minimal too, since this top is, it's pulling it in from the outside on your belt. So
like if you imagine my jeans belt loops are going over this with the leather. And you can see, I wear it all the time. Like it's super worn in. These are backup mags. They are the legal limit. YouTube, don't worry, YouTube. They're what I'm legally allowed to have. They're only loaded up to the legal limit, YouTube. But I keep them in a what's it called? Blue Alpha. Not Blue Alpha. Is it Blue Alpha?
Yeah, the blue.
Larry Vickers company.
Yeah,
I think it's Blue Alpha. But it's their like stretchy nylon pistol bag holster, and then I'm walking around with this other 15 round magazine, running some Norma silver hollow points because of the werewolves in our neighborhood. They've gone bad.
So you're hitting 4 mags normally.
No, I'm running. Sorry, this one's usually
in
there.
All right,
and then these are on my backup.
Okay.
But I have been playing around with the idea of throwing an extra liner right here, next another holster right here to hold a tourniquet. But I'm not sure I like that format more than the tourniquet on like in a pocket outside on the waistband, so all that said, because I also think like if I have the tourniquet and I'm shot and I need someone to get it to put it on me, I don't want them to panic if they see my gun, and not help me. So there's some scenarios of that I'm playing through, but that is my EDC sans the phone. I don't think there's anything else Mick usually carries. Let me check real quick. Oh, I got a dog bag here. That's empty.
Yep.
But
nice.
Usually EDC and doggy treats in here.
Oh, nice.
I'm a big dog owner now.
Yeah,
I'm dog dad.
You went all in. All in.
Yeah, so I think that's it. And then I have my I become a pretty regular backpack, one strap sling backpack guy, just because you can honestly just carry so much more. And like I have my laptop in there and all that, which is great. But the number one things I have in there that I really appreciate the sling bag gives me the ability to carry is a little bit of body armor, especially if I want to hand that backpack off to someone else, like Billie Jean, to keep them bodied. And then I have, of course, my IFAK in there with enough, medical stuff to use on me, but also a little bit of extra space for like if I want to have medical stuff staged to put on other people. And then I have most days, especially if I'm like actually going into town and rolling around, I got the Flux running around inside with a couple backup mags. And it's all secured in their compartments. The backpack is designed for essentially commuting, and having like compartmentalized stuff for like your gun in one pocket, your IFAK in another, and then your daily usage stuff like keyboard, laptop, notebook, charging cords, all that in another.
Yep.
It's called the Vertex Commuter 2.0. If anyone's interested in it, it's a great sling bag so far. I really like it. The only thing is, if you do use it daily, it is going to wear down a lot faster than I think you might expect. So I already got some sewing I need to do on it to secure some stuff. Nothing like detrimental. But Pat, you can see here, like, it's just at the like most high stress points, some of the weaker threading's coming undead. But the only thing that's doing is just keeping the foam inserts covered. So, but anyways, it's a pretty great backpack. I like it a lot, and I've walked like probably 12 hours with it on at most, and it's sore. But you put on the support waistline buckle, and it totally shifts all the weight to your waistline. You're just not going to get to it. Like, you're not going to swing it around and get your gun out as fast. But also, if you're walking around 12 hours a day like that,
you probably don't know you're ready to whip it quite so fast, you know?
Maybe. Yeah. I was in DC, so I was like, well, there's no gun in here anyways. I had my knives on me for DC, so. But anyways, all right, that's Mick's EDC. I will say I'm not cheating here. Because I would like to be carrying medical on my body all day, every day. And I just haven't started carrying it every day, all day. It's pretty much always on me, whatever I'm taking the backpack.
And that's where at some point you do have to kind of, you only have so many pockets and so much, that you want to prepare for the scenarios you could encounter, but it does at some point, it gets a little difficult to have your 100 foot of P cord in your back pocket just in case you gotta rappel down something, right? Which it's funny, someone hears me say that and says you can't do that with P cord, but we actually in college we designed a sick rappelling system with P cord, and we tried it out and it didn't break.
I don't even know what P cord is.
Parachute cord, 550 cord, like that thin stuff, but anyways, I
always just call it paracord. I will, but anyways, like my biggest thing, the way I say that is like I do carry the gun everywhere, every day. My big philosophy is if you're gonna have your concealed carry license and it's gonna be on you, my rule is that wherever the license goes, gun goes too, because I don't want to be caught flat-footed, someone taking my wallet and seeing my concealed carry license in it. And then turning around and blowing my brains out because I didn't have my gun on me,
or just laughing at you and insulting you, being like,
I don't care, man, dude. If they insult me and I'm not dead, that
they
whatever.
Up and they're like, you don't even have I'm insulted that you didn't come to party.
I again, at the end of the day, all I care about is going home alive. They can make fun of me as much as they want, but I would imagine. Here's my thing: if I'm stealing from you, I see that you handed me your wallet and it's got your CCW license in it. I'm going to shoot you in the face because I'm not taking any risk today with you trying to be a hero or something. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. No, for sure. And that's where I don't carry all the time anymore. And a big part of that being like,
did you ever carry daily?
There was a point in time, but then like honestly, like working construction and crawling around all the time, like crawling around in a crawl space with like a pistol on you. One, I'm in people's houses all the time. Like I think that's I do think that's a little bit of a violation of trust in some ways, to be like, going in people's homes that way.
Yikes. I mean, I go in everybody's home that way.
Right,
I say that more as like me like violating people's trust.
but like I'm talking like sometimes 10, 15 houses of strangers a day.
Yeah, but no, that's for real.
And so
I get it.
And then some people might be like, well, then how do you protect yourself? I'm like, well, I just
let them rape me.
Well,
it's a big thing in the radar business. You just know it's going to happen when you sign up.
For sure. And so I'm not a every day, all day, but I do. Yeah. I have it at other times, and yeah. So really with my job, it feels like it'd actually be in some ways less safe and, to be crawling around in attics and everything and whatever else. So especially, like I wouldn't want like the maintenance man, like carrying a hot piped pistol, like while he's doing like gyrations and spider monkeying in the attic over my kid's bedroom, like just kind of, so that's part of my stuff there. But when I'm carrying, my holster's pretty simple. I might upgrade at some point, with to something a little more that I can, a little more adjustable and fine tuning. And then also I don't have a light on right now that I'm actually gonna also have to get a upgrade at that point. I figured I'd get something nicer once the light fits.
That's also what I want to start daily. I used to always EDC a flashlight.
Yep.
And then my flashlight died on me. It was a pretty nice Surefire that just like combusted itself. And so I was like, all right, well, I don't know what to get now, and I just had like buyer's hesitation, and I never bought another flashlight.
Right.
So I really should. I just don't. And there's no excuse. I know I should have a flashlight because the issue is a lot of people are like, well, I got a flashlight on my gun. I'm like, yeah, but what if you need to ID something and you don't want the gun pointed at that thing? You know what I mean?
Yep. Because that's one thing. There's lots of videos of cops like using their flashlight and like there isn't a threat. There's nothing going on, but they're pulling out their gun and just out of habit pulling their gun and spotlighting something like over top of a patient or something. Like there's someone on the ground hurt or whatever, or trying to find someone. And like, so yeah, that's where I do I do have a light. My pin light comes in. And then I do, we'll get something on here. I'm looking at the TR 7 or 8. It's like basically just a little, the smaller version for this guy. Just a P365 X macro. I do like the size of this carry, and the old 365s have that shorter grip. I do like you really kind of have a full size ish grip with as far as length goes, but just that lower profile for walking around. And I do think that if you're going to carry, you should, whatever you're carrying, you should get something you feel comfortable carrying in, because you will carry more. Like if you have something that's super inconvenient, then you're gonna make the decision to not carry that day. You shouldn't be making a decision based off of comfort, right? Right. Like you can, if you have other reasoning, fine. But if it's a comfort thing, then you don't want to do that. But so it's usually, this guy, I just carry one spare mag, and potential capacities of this 365 mag. 2 of them. You could have quite a few rounds if you wanted,
Here's my thing, man. I started like role-playing scenarios in this game called Ready or Not. And the first level of the game is a couple armed robbers at a gas station. And it's a SWAT game where you're supposed to go in as a SWAT team, but you can just set it up so you're just going in with your sidearm. You get to set how many mags you want if you got any body armor. And I will say, I realized in a shooter situation, like in a gas station or something like that, having 1 mag or 2 mags is a fucking nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, you're just like, okay, maybe if there's one person.
Right.
But like, there's a couple times I've seen videos of like 3 or 4 guys knocking a gas station off.
Yep.
And I'm just like, holy shit. Like, 1 mag is certainly not enough. Like, I'm not John Wick. I'm not getting all headshots. You know what I mean? And like, also 2 mags didn't feel like enough. So for me, I'm always like, whether it's this or the FNX 45, I'm always going out with 3 mags.
Yep.
Or the Flux. The Flux, I'm always rolling out with
a couple
4
more.
mags.
Yeah.
Just because I can store it in the backpack.
For sure. And that's where like and at the time, at this moment in time, my capacity is completely okay. In the future, it may not be,
Sure.
So that's a different story. But, with, I've got buddies who have they carry a pistol with like a 7-round mag, right? I'm like, yeah, you should probably have more, because they carry 3 mags, and my 1 17-round mag is basically just as much as they have, right? So the, 34 rounds, I don't know. I don't know. So it's not quite that, I see where it could be. Here's the deal. It would, obviously at the moment when it totally runs dry and you wish you had a 3rd one. Yeah. That's that moment you've realized you messed up. But for the time being, I keep the 1 spare. And I do also, I actually keep my, whenever I keep this, where I keep my gun, I keep my tourniquet actually on top of it, because when I put my gun on, I put my tourniquet there for 1, so I don't forget it, but 2, as a little bit of a mindset thing to go like, what is the purpose of this tool that's coming with me today? And it is supposed to be a life-saving and protection tool, you know? And that's sometimes not how we see guns, you know, just depending on, you know, where you're at with everything. And so this is just a gut check, mindset check that if and when I'm carrying, I'm going to, if I'm taking something to take life, I'm also taking something to save life. It's just like a little thing in my mind to just sets my mind right of like, you know, this isn't my road rage thing. It's not coming out to show that I got a big old wiener, you know. Why is this here? It's for a purpose of protection, specifically of others. And that's one other thing too, where I've said this before, I think on the pod, where part of why I don't carry it all the time is I don't carry for self-defense, which I know sounds weird. I carry for typically defense of others, right? And that's where lots of people's mindset is too, but that's a part of, you know, where in general, that's kind of where my mindset sits on some of these things. And obviously I'll protect myself, you know, but the main reason why is for those around me or what's going on around me. So that's kind of where I fall with those things. But yeah, that's what I've been carrying this for a while. I like it. I like this little guy. But
where you put in the tourniquet? You putting it
like not when I'm carrying it, like in my safe.
Yeah, okay, all right.
This is sitting on top of it, or in like the slot where I have it. It sits in front of me. It's like this is what I see first. I put that in my pocket, and then I load up. You know.
So when are you carrying it at church usually?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah. So that's like, you know, like that's where like, you know,
I just was wondering like, what are the scenarios that you're deeming it like, okay, I'm bringing this with me today.
Yeah. You know, there's certain like, you know, if I'm going out with my family somewhere or to spots where I call like target rich environments, meaning from the perspective of a bad guy, you know, perspective of a bad guy, spots where they'd want to, you know, lots of people are gathering and kind of mass you know, threat type stuff. So, and then, or, you know, if we're going long drives in the mountains, whatever, then it's coming in the car, you know, that sort of thing too.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Sick. Well, people, let us know what your EDC is. And let us know why ours is gay and dumb. I will say, definitely check out these dry fire mags. Show the bottom of them.
Oh yeah,
we're not sponsored by them right now, but they did offer to sponsor the show, which is kind of cool. Yeah. But essentially, they allow you to pull the trigger, and it resets the trigger for you, which I think is pretty sick and a great dry fire trainer. And you can tune that spring reset to be pretty close to the weight of your trigger as it breaks normally. So anyways, big fans of dry fire mag. You can get, you know, thousands of reps in for basically cost of nothing. Cost of the dry fire mag.
And for certain models of guns, they've come out with the sweet new one with the laser, so when you shoot, it puts a little dot where you're, you know, generally where you're.
Yeah, I really want that one.
Yep. And they didn't have it for the 365 yet. I think they do have it for the Shadows and the Glocks, but it is more money, you know. But
more monies.
But it is a nice little tool. So
I'll say this: I know where my bullets are going.
Oh yeah,
they're going wherever I'm aiming. Yeah. Anyways, all that said, the EDC stuff, full circle back to training for Stop the Bleed at the church, right? We were doing our training, which a lot of it, you know, we encouraged our security team at our church to, you know, come prepared to learn, but also like bring stuff that you would have on you usually, right? So that way we can go over this. And hopefully you learn what you have on you is probably not going to suffice. But also like, you know, okay, if I had the tourniquet on me, how would I use that? You know, gauze, chest wounds, stuff like that. So all that said, we had an individual come out to teach us. He goes by Ty, and Ty is a search and rescue guy. He's been tasked on those teams for quite a while, and he's also a Thames attachment, just like our buddy Rice-A-Roni. But he just does some pretty cool, badass tactical medicine up in the mountains. And he, you know, pretty much came and taught us for free, we of course tipped him for his services because we were so thankful for his time and all that. But the dude was very generous. He came out and just did a very thorough presentation on items regarding, the Stop the Bleed course and kind of a lot of the official materials and how they apply in a combat setting, which of course doesn't apply usually in an emergency scenario in church. But then he helped us adapt a lot of that training and how it could be used for a scenario of like an active shooter at church or, a horrible accident. And Pat kind of mentioned one of the big things that we learned was, the difference between life-threatening and distracting injuries, and not every single so for the best, and get them to the emergency services as soon as possible. So anyways, all that said, it was a really great training, but I think the thing that I learned the most was from, honestly, because all the medical stuff was stuff I already knew. I did hear from a lot of our guys that they had never heard or gotten that kind of medical level education. And for those who don't know, like, imagine CPR and then ratchet that up to like, a level in which you're applying medical life-saving knowledge for like a mass triage, like Boston Marathon bombing, which was also a lot of the examples of, right, is like, how are you doing triage for a scenario like this as like a citizen who's prepared, but not a nurse, not a doctor, not an EMS. So I know a lot of guys said that was phenomenal, but the thing that I thought was certainly the most valuable for me was the scenarios that we were running at the end, where we'd have 3 people on our team step out, and then everyone else in the auditorium or sanctuary for the church would be given a role of what to do. And then the 3 coming in would have to freaking immediately assess what the hell's going on and who's shooting who, or is the shooting over? Okay, who needs help, where, and who's just in the way, who's a distraction, how do I control the distractions? And so those were all really good. And I think, Pat, I'm curious to hear your opinions. But I think the number one thing that I saw that I think most people were aware of at the end, but the thing I saw that I thought was most detrimental was 100% like that tunnel vision of zeroing in on like, oh, there's someone on the ground who's hurt, or oh, there's someone with a gun, and just tunneling in on that and not being aware of everything else around you in the scenario. Like, I know when I was running in, I honed in on a guy who was apparently our good guy with a gun in this situation. I drew on him, gave him commands, told him up against the wall, took his gun from him. Wasn't the real shooter. And the real shooter was over by the wall just shooting us. Yeah. Yelling, bang, 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 bang. And we were all dead. I don't think anyone shot him. Which was crazy because I just honed in so hard on that one guy with the gun. And of course we had a buddy who was pretending to be dead next to him. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is going on here? Is this guy going to switch on me in the last moment? I need to secure this weapon. Yeah, in reality, I guess you would have, I would have still heard banging from the other side of the room, gunshots from the other side of the room, but it only takes one gunshot to like take your lights out, right? So it was one of those things where I saw that for myself. Everyone on that run though didn't spot the shooter. Everyone zoned in on doing medical triage for the people who were injured. And there's a couple other ones I saw, like people really, really honing in on the work with their hands, whether that's putting a tourniquet on and not being aware of a gun laying right next to them, or being aware of a gun still on the person you're trying to take care of. Yeah. Or I think a big one was there was someone who's running around trying to help out, and he wasn't aware that he was flagging his gun on a lot of people. And he was like, do you need help? And he'd put his hand out or talk or something, and that gun would be like pointing at the head of the dude who's trying to stuff a wound. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh man, like there was so much to learn from it. And I think everybody walked away being like, whoa, there's a lot here that like I need to think about and start, playing through my mind and have a better idea of like how to be more situationally aware, but also like more prepared for how to handle it when I have to, oh my gosh, there's a lot of blood. I need to start packing this guy's wound or applying a tourniquet. I also need to secure my weapon and not just set it on the ground. So
definitely. And I think that when I had very similar reflections because the devil's in the details on all this stuff where you have you go through, there's so many different parts, so many different things to train on that you then in a scenario have to activate all at one time. So whether it's, one, just your mindset awareness, two, your gun handling, marksmanship, movement, clearing, basically CQB stuff, and then crowd control, and then medical, attention, medical skills, assessing, determining, who needs what, when, how fast, priorities of care, and that too. And then also communicating with your team. And all those things are need to be trained individually and a lot, and then put together into one. Because on the first run through, the fellows who came in, they just didn't talk.
Yeah, there was no communication.
Yep. And so basically the way we ran the scenario was two guys came in first, and then a third guy would come in, respond as a couple seconds later. So by the time the second way, two guys come in and the second guy comes in, he's like looking around like, what's going on? Who needs help? Like what's happening? Is the shooter down? He doesn't know what's going on. And then, and basically like he was trying to communicate, but he just wasn't being very loud or forceful. Yeah. And so nobody was hearing him. And the other guys really technically wouldn't even know he was there. And so even just something as simple as communication, when that communication breakdown happens, it all, it went
silos.
Yeah, it can spiral downhill fast. And so
I think also too, like the first couple ones, a lot of people not moving, like the injured. It wasn't until like I think the third scenario I saw people picking up and moving people out of the pews to try to be like, oh, all right, we gotta put stuff on these people. We gotta move them because there's no way to. It's so hard to triage when they're like laying on a pew or in between pews.
Yep, no, for sure. And when I ran, I think as far as the scenarios go, I ran it 3 times if I remember right. The first time was actually my best run through, as far as like awareness, assessment, communicating to the team, directing people, and making calls. And then it broke down from there, and I'll go through those others in a second. But yeah, the first time I did feel like I came in, it was like, all right, I feel like some of the trainings we've been doing recently, because we've done a little CQB run through and things like that, I was able to approach it with that, not having to be top of mind, or like it wasn't taking all my bandwidth. And so I was able to clear, walk in, assess, and then and then also find my voice and give commands. That's part of like, similarly with the communication piece, that's what we saw with a couple weeks ago, was probably the main breakdown at the beginning too, was guys just not talking, not saying anything. Nobody knows. Yep. Yeah. Nobody knows what's happening. And you might as well not even be holding weapons.
Yeah.
If you're not talking or using your radios correctly or talking correctly, your weapon's not even going to help you. All it's going to do is get everybody hurt. And so I was able to do that the first run through some, and direct, and then, and then doing the hands-on, applying the, tourniquets, chest seals and that. And what was surprising though, was at the end of it, my heart rate was up. I was amped. I was in it,
yeah.
And a little bit of motor function, a little bit gone, just like even rushing, trying to put a tourniquet on, help the situation, go where it needs to go. And so, One thing I do wish, we need to figure out a way to be able to use radios for training, but I think it was a good call not to this time, because you don't want to be throwing out on airwaves that could be going everywhere.
Yeah.
Words like shooter, I'm shot, it's people injured, call 911, all these things. So we opted to not use our open radio communication to, for any nearby, people at the hardware store be freaking out. And
we should make our own. We just got to encrypt our own channels.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, that'll be another layer, because in communication is one thing, then adding radio communication on top of it is a whole nother next level difficulty.
Dude, that's one thing I want to emphasize that too, is I've even been finding in a few trainings I went to, we were doing entry control points and how to control those. Or I guess you could say entry point control. But a lot of people just have no confidence on a radio because they've never had to use one before. And so they hit the button and hold it up to their mouth and oh man, what do I actually say? And they just speak plainly at first, or they kind of mimic what they think it should sound like.
Right.
Pat, this is Mick. No, I mean, Mick, hey Pat, you, can you come here?
Yeah.
And then they stop and then they hit it again over. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where people who just had no experience on radios just don't know the kind of real best form of communicating when you only can communicate one way, and it's very easy to cut someone off accidentally. So
for sure. And so yeah, that first scenario, went well, and then the second scenario we did messed me up. I think because I'm not saying I did perfect and it was all this, but because that first one went well, the next time I ran it, and we'd been running a few times through, we were also, I will say, we were using our real firearms, but with them either broken down or completely cleared or dry fire mags in.
I think everyone either had a dry fire mag in or a dummy round in.
Yeah,
we had double man empty checks.
Just cleared everything, no ammo on site, so it was safe. But that being said, we did run the scenario again, and I was second man in, really third man in. So two guys went in, and then there's loud pops and bangs going on. And
that was me stomping on some poppers.
Well, and so what happened? But as we went in there, I basically broke scenario. Because I was processing in my brain, is the worst thing happening now, which is
someone accidentally shot somebody,
which is a training situation gone awry with either one, a couple things going on. One, we messed up. Someone has live ammo. Two, somebody somebody walking outside heard, and it's because the walls aren't that thick on our church, where someone walking by outside could hear someone yelling, "Stop, get to the ground," whatever, all this stuff. What is going on? And so I did not perform well on that one. And our instructor, even, he kind of was he was laughing. He was like, "Man, we got you on that one." I was like, "Yes, but that's because I was processing to the point of being what is," and because you were in the stairwell, that was coming. And I'll say, going back to the point where you were saying, we would probably hear the real bang bangs and see the shooter. In that room, I'm not so sure, because it sounded because the way that room's designed, it was coming from the top floor, like the upstairs, and coming off the stage psych, this big thing that echoes sound back, and it was I was trying to locate it, and I could not find what was going on.
That's crazy.
And so there was I was for a few seconds, I was really trying to figure out what is actually happening right now. Am I going to continue a scenario? Or is this we have to
how did the other guys on your team respond? Because of course, I didn't see anything. I was in the stairwell pretending to be dead. I was just stomping on poppers.
That's what they had already gotten you at that point.
So no one got me.
Well, when you were, no one got you. Oh, right. Because you got killed by
a good guy
in the church, right? So, but they were still clearing. But I was just, because I'd came in behind them, they had already seen it or known and were already through whatever. But I had no idea, and those things smelled pretty smoky.
Oh yeah, they did.
I was and so anyways, it threw me for a loop. So I did I guess in some ways I dropped the ball, but also in other ways I was like, I did not know this was gonna happen.
Yeah, it was awesome when he pulled him out. He's like, so, we'll get him good. I was like, hell yeah.
So as a part of being like, I'm kind of responsible for this, like seeing what's going on. Like anyway, so, but you know, that run through, some of the things, you know, other things we had happen was one time, a couple times we killed the good guy, you know, right? Like, because
blam.
Because you run into this situation, you run into this room and there's guns going off. There's people all around, and chaos going on. And we did our role players, our guys, people were screaming. Some people were like yelling, hollering. We were playing heavy metal music on like phones all around the room. Like it was pretty disorienting.
One of the dudes that we have on our team who's an actual cop, was walking up behind us with his phone and his flashlight on. Just be like, I don't think you're doing that right.
Just harassing.
Do you know what you're doing? And he was just like literally just trying to be like one of the most pestering bystanders, not cooperating.
Like the YouTube videos you see of people like harass, like just like name and badge number.
Dude's, you know, trying to like save somebody's life.
And so, but you know, you run in there and reality is other people carry, you know, and so if you get in these situations where, you know, you got to determine what's going on, and we improved as we went on that, where it's like, all right, we're not just going to just blow everybody away. We're going to approach this a little differently.
I did think it was pretty realistic though. Like, and especially for a lot of those guys who I know are a little bit less experienced, in the rehearsing and like role playing concept and like practice. But I know for a lot of them, they were like, oh shit, I totally just killed Mick. And Mick was like playing himself. Or like, oh, I totally just blasted Pat and Pat was actually a good guy here in this situation. And then as like time went on, the enunciation and clarity was a lot better, which I think I got to a point where I think every one of those guys now, when they're sitting in service, are probably mentally in a place where they'll announce themselves if something happened and we ran in, right? They'd be like, yo, it's me. It's Rice. Don't shoot. And I'd be like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, honestly, the person who's probably most likely to respond to that threat is one of us who's not serving that Sunday in the auditorium. Yeah. While the rest of us are kind of patrolling around. Yeah. Because we're fluxing in and out a lot of the time. But that's also because there's usually like, I don't know, 10 people each service who are probably packing. So it's like one of those things of like, someone's in there who's probably going to respond to the threat. And there's other areas of the church that are a little bit more higher priority. But it was cool to see everyone rehearse that entry and positive identification, as well as like people on the role play side getting an opportunity to rehearse the like self-positive identification of like, hey, it's me. It's, you know, your friend. The shooter's done. We're good. You know? But anyways, the one that really shook me, and I think you know what I'm going to say.
I think so. Was I involved in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that like shook me about just like how zeroed in we can get.
Oh, yeah.
Was Pat and two other guys were providing triage.
Because at this point, the shooter was down.
Shooter was gone.
And there was only one guy left to take care of.
Yep. And so he had 3 dudes trying to stuff his wounds with cloth, or not cloth, but like with gauze, as well as, did he have any tourniquets that you guys had to put on?
It was tourniquets and chest sealing. It was all.
There was noodles there that were supposed to simulate his arms, and I remember seeing a couple guys trying to stuff the noodles.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like pool noodles for people who don't know. Pool noodles are great because they got a hole in them, so it kind of functions as a channel in an arm or a leg, and you get to really pack it tight. But anyways, the injured individual had a firearm on him that no one noticed while they're like attending his wounds
for a few minutes.
Oh yeah.
And he was being like a little semi-belligerent, which is like, and so, you know, just uncooperative patient, you know.
And he was like reaching his hand up and grabbing for the wound packing or the chest seal or the tourniquet every once in a while. And you guys were like, hey buddy, hey, keep your hand there. Keep your hand on your chest. Keep your hand out. You're like giving him the good friendly commands of like, hey, I'm trying to save your life. Keep your hand out of the way. Right. And I thought that was all great and good until this guy goes for his gun, and his gun was on his like 3 o'clock on his right side. He starts drawing it out of the holster, And people were like, keep your hands still, keep your hands still. And then I don't know who noticed the gun first, but someone's like, gun, gun, gun.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 pairs of hands were on the gun at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, you had one hand on the barrel of the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy.
And I was pushing it into his body so he couldn't pull it out.
You were pushing it against him. But another guy grabbed the gun and started pulling on the grip of it away.
Mm-hmm.
And so the patient who had just pulled his gun out actually released it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just Pat and this other guy trying to provide triage. Both of them focus on 2 different parts of triage, trying to secure the weapon without realizing they were pulling against each other.
Yeah.
And so you guys were doing like a tug of war back and forth. And Pat.
And then what happened?
Yeah. And then Pat thought, damn, dude, this guy's really trying to shoot us with his gun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm gonna stop him.
Mm-hmm.
And so Pat pulled his gun out and shot this dude in the chest and killed him.
Yeah.
Killed the patient.
Uh-huh.
And what was crazy was like end scenario was called, and still you and the other guy weren't aware of what happened. You guys still didn't know because there was no other like third eyes to like tell you. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. And, yeah. Like until we debriefed, I didn't know that's what had happened.
And your expression when we were doing debrief, trying to explain to you what just happened, you and that other guy on the team,
I still
were gobsmacked. Like
I
the
still don't believe
expression on
it's
your
real.
faces.
In my, not that I don't trust you guys. What I'm saying is, in my memory, that's not what happened.
It was the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. Like in a role play scenario, I'm like, I wanted to yell. It was a car accident, bro. I wanted to scream, stop, stop! Like you're fighting over the gun. And it was just like. And I remember Ty putting his hand on my shoulder, just like, no, let it happen. Like, let it play out. Let's see where this goes.
And I smoked him.
Dude, it was crazy. It was unreal.
It was not that was and yeah, so from my perspective, because it's funny, it really is like my memory, I have no memory of the other guy's hand on it, just me and the patient. And basically what we had gotten to was like the training was if you see a gun on somebody, you just kind of, hey, sir, do you mind if I see a weapon? Do you mind if I remove that for you? Keep us both safe. And I saw the gun and then it registers in my mind, okay, gun. And then I'm like, then I start in my mind, just like as I'm starting to process, what do I say? Oh, and I'm like, as I'm just like, sir, you're getting, and he's reaching, then he reaches, then he pulls it, he's pulling it out. Yeah. So then I did put a hand on it, push it into him. And from my perspective, the rest of the time, he is just fighting me and fighting me. And I don't think I told him to drop the gun.
I don't know, dude. I was so in the moment watching this.
Everybody kind of like tunnel visioned it. Like, so whatever they were focused on, they saw it, but didn't see like the whole thing. And it's like, but so I was just what I was trying to do was push down so he couldn't get it out.
Yeah.
And then I did. I had to draw across my body, and I actually had a scrape for like a week on my belly from getting my gun out because I was bent over forward. Yeah. And I ripped it out hard and just
pinky jammed it.
Contact shot.
For those who don't know, I feel like we could do this here with the Lamet as an example. The patient had pulled the gun out like this and was leaning it up towards Pat, and Pat grabbed the barrel. And the other person providing triage had reached over like this and pushed the patient's hand off. And then Pat and this guy are zigzagging back across, and the patient's not even involved anymore. It was unreal. It was probably the most insane thing. It is one of those things where like you see that, you're like, wow, wasn't that crazy? And then you're like, holy smokes, like what else happens in like the heat of the moment?
Funny, but not funny.
Because then you watch some body cams and you see that happen with police where like one police officer is recovering their weapon off the ground. But because it looks like it's next to the dude and people get hands mixed up, the other officer's like, gun, 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 and draws and shoots the dude. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's crazy stuff like that with like shadows and lights and lots of noises and lots of different things requiring your focus. That it's actually super easy to make that kind of mistake. And I think that's why also no one was like, dude, you idiot. Like all of us watched it and all of us were like, no one is dumb here. Like this happened because it could happen to literally anyone, right? In that heat of the moment.
Oh yeah, and we had there was like I said, we had one guy on a camera phone recording, like, like being like a guy who's like pretending to record you. We had our instructor had his strobe, his 5 billion lumen strobe going on.
He was like, "Am I helping? Am I helping? Do you guys need light?"
Yeah. And so all these things going on, and like in my memory of what happened, it was exactly not what happened.
So funny.
And so it's definitely eye-opening to see how those scenarios play out, and the and just so proving too on like how, and people know this, but how you talk about eyewitness reports being so
skewed and
non-viable.
Yeah.
You get ask two people, get two totally different stories.
Yeah, I wouldn't have believed it had someone said it and I wasn't there. I would have been like, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But all that said too, I can't remember how many times I did it, but at the end of the day, I found the scenarios very valuable. And that was just so cool to see everyone post scenario. Like the behavior of the room before we did the scenarios was like, wow, this is really cool. Learn a lot. Man, that's some pretty gory imagery. But we did we had everyone practice stuffing noodles, and everyone was like, wow, it actually would be pretty hard to pack a wound. And we had people practicing tourniquets on each other and be like, wow, okay, so this thing needs to be really, really tight.
Yeah.
Way tighter than you think it needs to be.
We were screaming in there. I had bruises after.
Oh yeah, me too, dude. Yeah. And like the nice bruises, like the green line around your leg. But it was when the scenarios happened where I saw it click for everybody, and post scenarios, we did the debrief and everyone was just like, dude, this was the best training I've ever had when it comes to medical stuff. This is the most like informative stuff I've received. And I just thought that was pretty sick. And it was really cool because that guy who did our training, Ty, I know he really wanted to provide something that was valuable to everybody. And I tried to let him know, like, hey, there's no one here who's like a tier 1 operator.
Right.
But I think he came in still thinking like, man, I don't want to waste these guys' times. And I feel like everyone walked away thinking like, dude, especially for the cost of free 99, this was amazing.
Yeah.
So anyways, all that said, I do think training is the most important thing when it comes to actually learning skills. And I don't think training's reading a book. I'll be honest. Training's not following a PowerPoint. Training is putting your hands on stuff, rehearsing, doing some role play. Live action role play is the best thing you can do.
Yep.
And so all that said, I found that to be super advantageous, and it certainly changed. Like I said, I am still playing around with the method for the daily carry for these medical supplies on body. I think I might go for the boot IFAC, like the boot belt IFAC. It just seems like probably the most effective way to have it. I got all my pant legs can go around it. It's easy to actually put that in your boots,
especially as we enter warm season, when you're like, in the winter we got, vests and coats and everything. You're squared away. But yeah, as you enter into, warmer season, getting all that stuff on you. Yeah. And I think that, and it's not that much extra stuff to have on you if you're already in the game. It's like, and back to what I was talking about, like kind of like what putting that tourniquet on top of my pistol before I put it in. It's like, to speak to what you carry and training would be, know why you carry what you carry, know how to use it, have an understanding of it, and then if you're gonna do it, you should take it all the way to having the gear and the stuff that is going to be helpful in one of these situations if you find yourself in that situation. And then finally, LARP with it. Live action, role play, run through scenarios. And because I'll tell you what, I've spent a couple thousand hours watching gun tubers and med videos.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, they barely helped. Run through a scenario, right?
They didn't do a shitload for us when we actually, I can't tell you how many hours of CQB I watched.
Yeah.
And then when we did our CQB training, I was like, this didn't fucking do shit.
Didn't translate at all. Exactly. And that's where, so then that too being like, all right, if you want to be a guy who rolls around strapped, and carries all this stuff, be somebody who can use it and have the mindset to use it, because, the super cliche, you rise to the level of your training or whatever, there's, it's definitely overused phrase, but
I think it's true,
That
man.
being said, I think that, just because you could roll up looking like, Russell from Up, like you could have every piece of gear in the book. But if the tags are still on it and you've never put your hands to it and really understood how to use it and try to use it in the most real situations, make the situations as real as you can. That's why we had poppers going off and loud music and people screaming and things, and make things as stressful and real as you can. Then it's gonna actually benefit you so much more. And so you gotta, because as case in point of the final story where I blacked out and smoked the good guy. It's like, it's you gotta train up to it.
Oh, dude. But I think every single one of us, again, I just want to reiterate, like every single person I know would have done the same thing.
Right.
That was just, it was unreal. Like the way the dominoes fell on that. It really was like watching a train pile up. I was like, it won't stop. It won't stop unless we do something. It was so funny. Anyways, Ken, thanks for joining and listening. We appreciate you. We appreciate your comments, and we appreciate you giving us feedback and suggestions on what to do, what you want to see, what you like, don't like. So thanks again so much. We hope you're enjoying all this, emergency preparedness and training stuff that we've been doing lately and posting. Please continue to take it and, apply it to yourselves and improve upon it and become better prepared individuals as well. But with that, Pat, you got anything for us?
Till next time, Ken. Thanks for tuning in. If you love this episode, drop us a review. If you have qualms or comments, leave us a voicemail on our website. While you're there, check out our latest news, merch, and deals from our sponsors. Till next time, Ken.